Hello and welcome to the second edition of the Blockchain Asia Show. Welcome into Singapore tonight. I'm Michelle Wonderland and joined again by Gustavo Liu and with Clemen Chiang. And excited to be here for the second show. We're starting to get a little bit more, topics under the belt. Awesome guests. This is really exciting for me because I don't have a lot of background in crypto and virtual currencies. So for me, I'm going to get a crash course just by listening to both of you and the expertise that you're bringing to the table tonight.
Well, I'm certainly learning from Clemen a lot. He's the guy that's gone like way far into deep, ways down into blockchain.
Yeah, so welcome. Thank you for being here. You had a pretty busy day today. Tell us a little bit more about what you've been up to, what you're doing.
And Michelle and Gustavo, thanks for having me here tonight. Very, very happy to join the show again. I love this place.
This is your third time, right?
This is my third time. And
hey, that's as long as I've been here.
So today, this show will be my 6th meeting for the day. And after the show, I'll be rushing for my 7th meeting. And that's the kind of pace in, I guess, in the blockchain world.
Yeah.
I came from a fintech background. So I can see the big change and I transit from fintech into blockchain. Oh my God, the speed is like 10, 20 times much faster. And you really have to be up to speed because the community is really demanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with all the latest change, right? I remember when people started talking about blockchain, and this is like 10 years ago. They were saying, oh, for the technology to adopt, it's gonna take 30 years, right? And within 5 years, it just kind of sped so fast. Between 2008 all the way till like now, how much has changed?
Yeah, that was a very good question. I did a blog post on Bitcoin itself. We tracked from 2010. Today we are 2018. It went through 7 major spikes. Out of the 7, 4 went up, 3 went down. What's interesting for the 3 down spikes, 2 of them were 90% down. Effectively or technically right now, we're on the 3rd spike down. We hit about 68% down and we've been fluctuating there. But for the spike up, it's like 500x, 100x, 5x, 10x, that kind of range. That's why it's keeping this community very active.
Well, it's interesting also because I come from media and entertainment, and definitely the narrative back around Christmas time, Thanksgiving time in America was all about this spike that was going up. So the narrative and all of the like comedy shows and television shows. I just watched one last night on Freeform, and it was funny because I remember being passively looking at the value just spiking. Yes. And I remember my family was on holiday in Thailand, and I was like, I've got to buy. And I didn't. And and then I bought high. And
what level did you buy?
It's kind of embarrassing, but it was January.
Oh my God.
I know.
You know what? I've got an interesting story about that. Actually, I was catching up with a friend of mine, and he was like, oh my God, I made so much money on crypto and all of that and all of this. And he, coming from finance in the advisory side, we always tell people don't invest in anything that you don't understand. However, that doesn't apply on cryptos, right? Most people don't understand what crypto is about when they go and buy it, and they just kind of roll along. So what ended up happening is that all the people that saw them making money, they just started buying, and then what happened? It just went down. And he couldn't, he was in a very difficult position. But he didn't ask them to buy. It's just that he just kept telling people how good it was.
It depends on timing. So if you relate to December last year, the magical number to remember is 94. In Chinese, we call it 94. That's actually 4th of September last year when the Chinese government imposed a ban for cryptocurrencies across China.
Yep.
So that period was what we call the winter season. And go through the winter season, September, October, November, came December, boom! Major spike on the chart itself for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's where things start to go off tangent. By the time we hit Valentine's Day this year, came crashing down.
Must be Valentine's Day. All those couples
Not on Valentine's Day, because on the 9th of February, I was in Silicon Valley celebrating Chinese New Year in Silicon Valley and attending a blockchain event there. And everyone was looking positive. 9th to hit 10, 11, 12, 14 onward, vroom, start to come crashing down. And
Your hearts were broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been going down since then.
You were everyone was out having a nice dinner, really high, beautiful dinner. All of a sudden you're looking at your phone and you're like,
my wallet is just shrunk. Literally just shrunk.
Yeah.
Well, that's I get to be here on this show because I made the mistake of buying high. So, it's really good in a practical sense because, I'm going to be learning from the experts to do not what I did.
Hey, it's a long game.
But Michelle, no worries about that. Take heed from this guy called Tom Lee. He predicts that Bitcoin will hit 25,000 by the end of this year.
All right, I'm holding on to my tiny investment now.
He also predicted Ethereum will hit 1,009 by end of this year. So let's see what happens. And last week, we just invited the top crypto trader, according to tradingview.com, all-time ranking #1. His name is called Excavo. He came to Singapore and we put together a 2 days program for him to teach local traders. And of course, we put forward the question to him, what's your feel about Bitcoin prices? He said, look, I've been hanging out with the market makers in Russia. He came from Ukraine.
The whales.
He hangs out with the whales in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Ukraine. And he said, guess what? We are not going to allow 2018 to pass by without a positive note. And how positive is the note? It's looking about 11,000, 12,000 Bitcoin prices. And that's the feel. There's institutional demand right now.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit concerned about that because those are wonderful news because I'm holding on some of the tokens, by the way. So just to clarify that, right? But I want to say is that sometimes these kind of predictions, they're kind of like a Mayan calendar situations where the world is going to end in 2012 and nothing happened. We kind of just breeze through. Or like, is that kind of like a signal where they are about to do something? The whales are going to come in and something is going to happen.
Okay, let me give you the clarification about institutional money, or we call it the old money. When we started our ICO way back in the May-June period, we started speaking to different ICO funds. Most of them were dried up because it was on a downtrend and they stopped participating in ICOs. And then where do we turn to? Where's the blue ocean? So today I can walk to any of the top Chinese exchanges, crypto exchanges, and they'll be willing to have a conversation with me. Why? This is what they are telling me.
It's changed hands.
They're saying that in the crypto market, they call it the red ocean today. Whoever is in it is already in it. Then the question is, where's the blue ocean? Blue ocean is in the traditional old money in the stock market. Those guys holding on stocks have not entered the crypto market yet.
No.
So
and property.
Property market. But we are tracking publicly available information. For us to track stocks is much easier. So that's exactly what spiking does. So what we've seen is this. Last week we did a press release for our ICO side of the news. And guess what? We are able to attract old money who set up a new blockchain fund. And the first project they supported is spiking.
Fantastic.
And those guys are really serious institutional guys, extremely knowledgeable. They are sitting on numerous portfolios that went IPOs, and they just started a blockchain fund.
And I totally agree with you. Actually, I've worked in finance for over a decade, right? And I would say that a lot of the funding is how do you shift, and we do the same thing for startups. How do you shift money that is more sort of traditional? We're talking about private equity money, we're talking about stock money, bond money, to something that is more sort of later technology.
Yes.
Although there are a lot of thoughts that are saying this is like the fairy dust stage.
Yes.
But for companies that have real blockchain application that have actually used, and there's a real need for tokenizing that, there's actually a very compelling story to want to shift that funding to a more sort of value-adding asset class that you'll be taking essentially the very similar type of risk, but the return is very different, right? If you look at to really make money out of stocks, you need to take like substantial weight, a lot of risk to make 20% at most. And on the token space, you actually can mitigate a lot of that if you know exactly where you're investing.
Then there's a balancing act that we got to play here. Equities market, we have sufficient data where you can perform fundamental analysis, technical analysis. You go to crypto side of things, not enough data. The really big guys moving the ripples are the whales, right? So the question that we put forward to the traditional old guys, the insti guys, what is stopping you for taking a 1% of your 100 million AUM, move it into crypto space? And guess what? Very simple answers. Number one, I do not know how the hell to set up a wallet.
Yeah, and that to me makes a lot of sense because, me and my tiny budget that's like totally gone now. But yeah, it's like if you have those established institutions that are, the old, it's a little bit hard. Yeah.
Yes. So number one, how do I set up my wallet? Number two, where do I hide my private key? Number three, what is stopping someone from kidnapping me? If I'm walking around with my ethers and the guy just asked me to open up my laptop and I have to transfer my ethers straight away. So those are key questions. And when we tackle head on with this kind of hurdles, we say, I think the way to go, the last mile that we need to complete is we need a crypto-friendly bank.
Which is exactly the same conversation I spoke. Look, this is Eureka because I spoke. It's not Eureka, but it's deja vu as well. Because I had this conversation like literally earlier this year with a guy that was very involved with blockchain. And he was saying the day that blockchain is going to go up is when my grandma can walk into somewhere and buy crypto.
Exactly.
Should they go, even last year trying to set up a wallet was like jumping through fire hoops. Now it's actually a lot easier. And exactly what Clemen was saying, does that mean that we need to go and set up a brick and mortar sort of office, or are we looking at a digital bank? And there is, I think, a bank, right?
Yes.
X-Bank or something like that, or Block Bank or something.
But what I can share with you as a kind of preview is right now we tried for 2 attempts to acquire a bank, and we speak to the central banker, and he says, we'll review a license every year. No, that's not going to work, right?
No.
We're going to come out so much money, buy a license, and you put a question mark on our head. 2 deals failed. Right now, we're on our 3rd attempt. And guess what? We say, put it on mandate. This is going to be a crypto-friendly bank. We're going to have SWIFT services, whereby our whales can telegraphic transfer their money, wire transfer their money, clear through all your banking clients, and then have a custodian service. Whether it's cold wallet or whole wallet, no one is going to steal your coins. It's hidden there. And not only that, at any point in time, you can convert your cryptos into US dollars. Straight on, at spot rate.
So the point on number 3 actually about the security factor, I actually don't think is that, from a personal view, I don't think it's that legit, because ultimately I could still be walking on the street with my debit card and somebody could come with a gun, which still happens in a lot of countries in terms of security. So I don't think that would be much different on the crypto space. I'm not sure why that person was concerned about that, because even with their bank account money, it would still run the same risk.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing. And you could also put limits on
how much withdrawal you can take.
Exactly. So, you know what? I wanted to take it back a bit because I was looking at, this, you were talking about the news that you just, put out about your company. Tell us a little bit more about that, about spiking and what's been happening and, all of this, this exciting stuff that, has been going on. So I'm looking at this, this article on Yahoo Finance. So just take us through that because that's exciting.
Thank you, Michelle. And we started in 2016. Our first office was at Block 73, next to 71. 71 is blue and we are red. The neglected block, we call it.
The red ocean space.
So we started as a fintech company, and we were very fortunate. We are one of probably the last beneficiary of the National Research Foundation support. We received some money from NRF. We are backed by Quest Ventures. And we thought, okay, we are on the right track. We raised $1 million. We're going to have a good runway. We're going to build our products. And we're going to continue to raise more money to scale up. Guess what? Towards the end of second quarter of 2016, NRF pulled its funding. Freezed. No more funding for support from NRF to startups. So there was kind of a cold winter season for most of the startups. Very difficult to raise money thereafter. 2017, we couldn't raise a dime. extremely tough, and our runway is getting shorter and shorter. Say, oh my God, what's going to happen next?
But that's when you really weed out the true, the companies and those that are like
Well
sort of
said, Gustavo.
resilient. Because you made it, you see. We'll be having a very different conversation if you didn't make it through.
And by the end of 2017, and I got quite a number of shareholders keep pushing me, Clemen, just write a white paper, throw it out there, people throw you money. I say, no, I want to stick to fintech. I was very stubborn about it. Until January this year, I got a major breakthrough, and I just met this guy, the meeting before our show. I was shaking his hand. I said, thank you so much, Yu Seng. You are the one who opened up our eyes and gave us the first introduction, a breakthrough in our thinking. We were so gelled up in our fintech thinking, we refused to think out of the box. He was the guy who opened up our eyes and made the first introduction to the very first partner that we had in our blockchain business. And from then on, January this year, all the way right now, we ran full speed. And guess what? It was a blessing in disguise because we were able to offer to traditional investors, hey, would you like to invest in my fintech startup? If you invest in our fintech startup, you get 2 for 1 because we are also in the blockchain space.
Yeah.
And we were able to raise our equity round, second equity round. We call it Series Pre-A, and our press release went out in August. And once we closed that, and our traction for private sale for ICO went through the roof, we were able to attract old money who say, oh, this guy is legit, very serious. They've done well for their fintech. Right now, we want to give them a hand in the blockchain. And these two things kind of gel up together.
Well,
so that's what's happened since 2016.
Those are also people that understand where you are going to be scaling towards, right? And they always say your first early startup, or in the startup, or whether you are raising at a later stage, those that come in early are your visionaries. And essentially are people who understand. And right now who are investing in blockchain and in getting very seriously involved with blockchain are visionaries. They're looking at how do we change, how do we decentralize systems.
So here's the numerical breakdown for you, Gustavo. If they are visionary investors, and a study was made, so for traditional startup companies, you invest in seed round, A round, B, C, D, E, F. Then you go IPO, tong, ring the bell, everybody exit happily. A study was made. Those who invest in the seed round, typically, they get 5,000% return, 5x. Not 5x, 50x.
I know.
As you draw nearer to IPO, you get about 100x or 2x. So visionary investor always invest at seed round. So we were very fortunate. At our seed round, we attracted, our shareholders are mostly from capital market CEOs of public listed companies in Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, and they also have public listed companies in US.
Do you feel that once you announce ICO, that kind of became more borderless? Because before you were kind of confined, the equity was Singapore, equity was like a particular jurisdiction, and now ICO kind of possibility became bigger.
And there's two parts to answer your question, Gustavo, and that was what I was sharing with Michelle earlier on. The previous show I came on board here, Graham put me in a panel of 4 of us.
The hot seat.
And I'm the only guy running an ICO blockchain, and we have other panelists who are sitting there. No, ICO is a scam. It's not legit. Those guys are cheaters. They are not hardworking. I say, look, I'm sitting across you, dudes.
I'm still here.
I'm sitting right here. I can hear you.
Can you wait for me to step out to the toilet before you say?
And straight they run down. The moment you mention ICO, they look at you like a criminal. I say, look, you can look at me and I'm a real guy here, right? So that is one perspective. But the other perspective that you correctly pointed out, it became borderless. We right now have users or fan base from across the world. It's amazing. Look at our Telegram. Oh my God, we got all kinds of people, and we get them to download our app, test our app, say this is a stock market app today. Very soon we're going to release the crypto versions of things, and you have a hybrid of both stocks and cryptos hybrid in a single app, because we believe they belong in the same asset class. That is a very, very important detail if you talk about wealth management or becoming financially independent.
Because you can't really treat, actually, it's true, because you can't treat it like a currency as it tries to claim it is, right? Obviously, there are a lot of factors where it will make it seem inherently like a currency. But ultimately, you still have to peg it. Right now, it's not widely used. You can't buy everything with crypto tokens. You essentially do have to convert it back to fiat at some point.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the good news.
You're changing that.
We are changing that.
All right.
And I got 4 meetings lined up tomorrow just tackling this pain point that you have raised, Gustavo.
Okay.
And the pain point
Liquidity.
is this. Today, for those holding crypto assets, whether Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, whatever not, they can only do one thing. Go to crypto exchange, buy low, sell high, attempt to make money.
Right. Yeah.
Right? They can't go to marketplace, buy an iPhone X, go to a restaurant, have a
No.
simple meal. We're going to solve that with a wallet solution. What if I present to you, we have a second alternative to PayPal? Meaning to say, you will pay, let's say you want to have a meal that costs $50. And on our wallet, we'll tell you this $50 is equivalent to X number of Ethers. You will pay in Ethers, and the restaurant owner will receive in cash
fiat.
$50.
Okay.
We solved that using a wallet solution. And today we are ready to present that into the Singapore
How
market.
would the fluctuation be managed in that case? If I say, for example, and that will also tie down a little bit with somewhat the situation like is inflation, right? Where you don't want to create hyperinflation.
Yes.
When you walk into this coffee shop today
Yes.
is 1 ether,
Yes.
but then tomorrow it's like 5 ether.
Exactly.
Because
And that's the thing when you don't have a currency, a fiat currency to peg it to, or any, and that's where it gets very confusing. That's probably why, people
Okay,
you're
I'm
sitting
here.
around and they're like, yeah, but really.
No worries.
So
I'm
how
here
would that
to
happen?
simplify the process for you.
Okay.
We do it at spot rate.
Okay.
Today, if it's 2 Ethers, it's 2 Ethers. We convert straight away into fiat
Yeah.
so that at the end of the day, the merchant really doesn't care what is the volatility
As
of your
long as
crypto
I
price.
receive
Okay.
that fiat.
They will just receive in US dollars or Sing dollars. That's the concern of the merchants. So we solve the pain point of the merchants.
What about customers?
For customers holding cryptos, then it's the first time you ever get the chance to buy consumable products with the crypto assets they've been holding on since last year.
Yeah.
That's it.
They
So
want to
you
spend
have-
it.
You get a chance to put on 2 hats right now. Number one, you can put on a hat as a VC. I'm holding on HODL, my Bitcoin Ether for the next 10 years. And I don't want to look at it for the next 10 years. Then you're a long-term investor. Or you can be a trader. Every day look at the price, go up, go down. You try to be a trader, buy, sell. But after some time, you still need to buy your toiletries. You go to eat some food at a restaurant. You still need to pump your petrol.
Since you're sitting on it
Just
anyways.
convert it.
Yeah.
Just convert it, right? But taking this perspective, I've been a close follower of CZ of Binance, CEO of Binance. He made a very classic point in the last month tweet. He said, today, if you are doing ICO, you're raising cryptos. And you, after you raise your crypto, you convert into fiat. Put it another way. If you're out there in the real market, you raise fiat, would you convert into crypto?
Right. And see, I think that's something that, it's a little more difficult for someone like me to wrap my head around because, it should be the currency, but there's so much volatility and there's so much, and that's an interesting point that you bring up because, right,
Well, the one actual user application will be on business, right? What are businesses today doing? If you are trading cross-border items, you're doing exports and imports, right? Say, for example, I'm doing business with Japan, I will have a need for Japanese yen, and essentially that same concept. If I had anticipated the Japanese yen was going to fall, right? Well, it's gonna rise in the near future. I will go and buy a Japanese yen now because it's cheap.
Buy low, sell high.
Yeah, and I will hold in Japanese yen because it's cheap right now. I'm thinking that will go up. But unfortunately, say Abe made an announcement, caused Japanese yen to actually drop. So I'm sitting on very expensive Japanese yen now, and it's the same concept. Would I now use my Singapore dollars and convert it and go and spend it? No, I have Japanese yen. I'm just gonna go and use it. I'm just gonna spend it. On the other hand, if Japanese yen went up, now I'm have a capital gain.
Capital gain.
So would it make sense for me to use it as opposed to now if I have any need for Singapore dollars, I'm gonna convert my Japanese yen back to Singapore dollars because this is made a capital gain. So I will use that. So actually, the usage of that is very similar to what businesses are doing, except that now you are opening up more opportunities for them to spend. You're going to be sitting on that anyways. If you convert it now back to fiat, you're going to make a loss immediately.
right.
So to translate that into simple human terms for Michelle,
Thank you. So I don't make another mistake.
there are 2 concepts right now our viewers are struggling with. First concept is utility side of things. The second concept is the trading side of things.
The investment side, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Utility, we love blockchain. Governments have acknowledged that. Most of the governments in the world are embracing blockchain.
Yeah.
That's granted. But they are struggling with the utility against the trading value or the volatility of the price of the cryptos sitting behind it.
Yep.
That is the struggle. It's ongoing struggle.
Yeah.
But this is right at the very infancy stage of a tech. Every great tech out there takes about 10 years to complete the S-curve, right? So we are right now just at the real beginning of the iceberg. So give it more time for maturation and network externalities kick in. More and more people jump on board, especially the old Insti money start coming in. You're going to see this tech take off.
Right. And that's, I think, really important to keep in mind because it is in such its infancy, and the technology is there, but it's that volatility of and the adoption of, it's good that governments are starting to adopt the idea of the technology, is starting to, get a little more comfortable. It's when that volatility will start to, slow down, then it makes it, for someone like me or actually people that have more money to invest, but, it makes it makes more sense, and you won't have people sitting around the table going. Really?
So if you refer to my blog post, I wrote a blog post on Willie's spike, all about Bitcoin, right? 7 spikes. 4 up, 3 down. And each time it went down, the whole world said that's the end of Bitcoin. But it survived.
Yeah.
It survived.
Yeah.
Right?
Actually, that's a good point because I was interviewing one of our events, a miner, and she was trading Bitcoin before Bitcoin was cool, right? And essentially, she did say that the reason why she started trading Bitcoin because during the financial crisis, she noticed that it was actually the most it was still resilient, still kept its value, and so that was when she started mining for Bitcoin. She realized that a lot of the stocks have gone bust. But Bitcoin, in spite of all the negative publicity, you remember before 2008, it was just all negative press about Bitcoin. And it held its value. And then after that, it just one way up.
Since Gustavo, you bring up about mining, so I had an interesting lunch, right?
Yeah. Was it with a miner?
Yes.
What are the insights, Clemen?
Your lunch, your Chinese lunch, right? That's
we
what
had a Chinese lunch with a Chinese crypto exchange. And we talk about Bitman, the mining company that's going to go IPO on Hong Kong Stock Exchange, HKEX. And we digested their prospectus, right? They got $1 billion worth of revenues just selling mining equipment. But on the trading side of things, they're only able to generate 180 million. Such a big contrast. But one of the revenue streams that I don't think they put inside the prospectus is that they are a pool master. Pool master in China would be, I take the lead, all you small little guys follow. Right on my back, and we go in to participate in the ICO, we make our 10x, 50x, and all that kind of stuff. That is not in the prospectus, right? So look at them. They are doing good, making good money just on equipment sales alone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the underlying business have to be sustainable enough, and everything else kind of rides along.
And following up to that, so you have a mining company that's going to go IPO, declared already. Then there's a rumor out there, there's a crypto exchange that's also going to go IPO on Hong Kong Exchange, and that's Huobi.
Yeah.
And we know that Huobi has an office at International Plaza, right? It's huge.
Yeah.
But they decided to list on Hong Kong Exchange. So the question for me as a Singaporean is, how did Singapore Exchange miss out this guy? Why did they decide to list on Singapore Exchange?
Well, yeah. I think it's a regulatory. I have my theories
about that.
Yeah. But at least, I mean, as of last week, at least the government have sort of announced, MAS has come out and announced that, blockchain is going to make Singapore as a hub. I mean, that was an announcement.
Yeah.
And you know why that is so? Because just this week alone, it was officially declared Singapore is the top ICO nation, #1 in the world.
Right. And that's been recent. And, it's got a lot of help from other places that aren't, it's such a good environment here for that. And Singapore has made it such a good environment to have, this is where you do your ICO. This is where, you see the prevalence of, not just crypto and virtual currency, and ICOs, but you see, a lot of it. It's a very interesting and exciting time to be here.
And I got myself involved as what we call as an expert on ICO bench, right? So I review all the ICO's projects over there, give them ratings. And I kind of
So
discovered...
like the Moody's.
kind of Moody's, but this is
S&P.
a crowd of experts going out there to give ratings. And I'm seeing a phenomenon here. We are seeing Russian teams, Estonian teams, teams from different parts of the world outside Singapore, registering their entity in Singapore
Even
to do the ICO.
Even Estonia, because Estonia, I think, as a government level, they were trying to implement a lot of blockchain. They
I
were
think-
one of the first sort of government.
Yes, but they are using Singapore private limited companies because we have a good brand name. We got a solid infrastructure. I think the money is right here in Asia this time round. No longer in the US, it's coming over here. And of course, we have many Chinese companies registering Singapore companies to do their ICOs.
Actually, in the US, I was just there the whole of last year, and I found that there was a lot of resistance to understanding blockchain, more on the tokenization aspect compared to Asia,
Yes.
where the community has been a lot more open and receptive. I think it has a lot to do with the exposure that we get here.
Yes. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I'm heading back to the U.S. to San Francisco in a few days, but so I will be there on the ground, my ear to the ground. But I think you're absolutely right about that. The fact that it's happening here because of the exposure, and it makes sense that people are more aware of it in the community, and how to navigate, how to it's
Silicon Valley alone was probably the main area where you see a lot of kind of blockchain openness type of application. Even Wall Street, I was in Wall Street the whole of earlier this year, and they didn't. I mean, you get a lot of blockchain, the crypto players, but it wasn't a large. The banks, people in finance, were still resisting a large.
No, for this, we really have to pay credits to SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, because they made it criminal. They say, all of you guys are security tokens, right? We're going to go after you. And courtesy to them, all the projects are coming to Asia right now.
Yeah.
right.
And people are afraid to raise money in US because you can only target accredited investors, and you're treading on the thin line whether you're a utility token or security token. And at the end of the day, even if you're a utility token, SEC will just say you are a security token. So the line is not drawn. So what is good happening out of Asia is we are sitting on the fence. We don't take sides. You just do what you need to do as long as you're not fraudulent and you stay clear.
Yeah.
And
we
that's why
comply we comply with our regulations
Yes.
in Asia, and that is the more important thing, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, we answer to our investors, we answer to our people, and I've sat down in a lot of, and I'm it's a great thing. I had the opportunity to sit down in a lot of judging panels for startup investments, and you get a lot of early stage startups. And one of the things that the conversation we were having a couple of weeks ago was about humility. And there were a lot of fun early stage startups that are trying to get funding here in Asia, and they would expect the same type of embracement from the government here as they were getting it back in their own home country. Now, the thing is, Singapore, we didn't need to take taxpayers' money to bail out any financial institution.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that in itself, we have a system that needs to be respected by, and it is not often understood by a lot of business owners in other countries.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of the Singapore financial system. I've worked in this financial system for many years. Regardless of what people think, I think we have some of the most complete and protective systems for investors. Obviously, like our late founding father said, you want freedom, can you manage it? And in a lot of degree, we have a lot of freedom, especially in the financial sector.
And that we have to give credit to MAS. I think they're doing a fantastic job.
Absolutely.
They've been running the Singapore FinTech Festival.
Yeah.
Year on year, it's growing like crazy numbers. And we are on the global stage because of that. Good projects are coming to us.
Absolutely.
And we are the hub for raising money. And most importantly, we have a good reputation to maintain.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That reputation is so critical that it's exactly why Estonia, although they have tried to open up on the blockchain space, is still coming over here to get funding. It's where investors want to see. If you have Singapore jurisdiction, it's just far more respected.
And now we are seeing smaller nations like Malta, Prime Minister coming out to embrace the technology because it gives the smaller nations a chance to compete in the global competition out there.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to find a niche, and they officially declared themselves as the blockchain island. But kind of ironical because I went for the Asian Blockchain Summit in Taipei 2 months back, and they have a politician who called himself the crypto congressman. And he has also declared Taipei will be a blockchain island. So everyone kind of like this sexy terminology. We are a blockchain island.
Blockchain Island East, Blockchain Island Europe.
Yeah.
Well,
it could be a reality TV show.
Yes, correct.
see which blockchain island is not gonna sing soon. But actually, the 20 years ago, even before the financial crisis, it was a cool thing to call yourself the Green Island, where everything is kind of like, the green energy, green everything. And now it's the blockchain island, which is interesting.
So I want to take it back to, because you've been prolific. I wrote out on my Facebook page. I was like, he's got a PhD. You've written some articles about. I want to take it back into the spiking, with Bitcoin and spiking. I want to come back to this article that you wrote about, Bitcoin. Will it spike? And take us through that, because you were talking about, there are four spikes, 3 drops, and so when. And you mentioned earlier that by the end of this year is the prediction that, Bitcoin is going to spike again, which is good news for somebody who hasn't done anything with their Bitcoin for a while.
So the article is, there are 2 perspectives to that. The conclusion is this. Of the 4 spikes up, of course, people are making tons of money. 500x, 100x, 10x, 5x. Good money. That's what's keeping cryptocurrency so exciting about it. But we got to look at the spike down. The previous 2 spiked down, it went down more than 90% from its previous high. And technically right now we're on the 3rd spike down. We're hitting 68%. So in order for us to hit the full 90%, Bitcoin should technically reach 1,009. Yeah. Oh my God, that's the end of the world. So will we really hit 1,009 before it spike up for the next phase? Don't know. But what I'm getting from speaking to different parties and market information sources, we are looking at ending 2018 on a positive note. Reasonably, it should go up. How far? Nobody knows, but you got really big brand names out there. Tom Lee putting his hand on the table, 25,000, right? And of course, crazier guys like Tim Draper will be 200,000.
Yeah.
Because he has a personal agenda. He probably one of
Invested.
the biggest Bitcoin owners out there. So everyone is just looking and trying to wait and see.
They're also trying to play with sentiment, right? Like once you release that news, you hope that everybody would start.
Yeah. So as early as last week, where Ripple soaring like crazy.
Yeah.
Because officially, there are 3 commercial banks embracing the Ripple technology, and that's what's happening. We are looking for commercialization of the projects.
Yeah.
So we had an interesting discussion also. We are looking at Ethereum. Why it went down so far down? And it's not picking up. Yeah. We're waiting for good projects to kick off. But the sad truth is this. Most of the ICOs who raise money in Ethers, they convert to fiat.
Yeah.
That was the I think 3 days ago article. They convert into fiat straight off. They are not holding on to it. And those holding on to Ethers, when it was going down, they panic, they sell it off. So it's driving
it's a panic
pressure.
Selling.
Panic selling, and it's causing the downward pressure on Ethereum price. So for that, we also have to give some credit to Vitalik, who condemned Ethereum. They say, that's the end of Ethereum.
Yeah.
And we have all these things going on, and I'm raising my ICO in Ethers. I say, okay.
I know.
What should we do? And it's challenging time.
Well, I think I want to add on to what you said, actually. You talked about the financial crisis where we saw the spike, and what finance people tend to, especially analysts, they tend to look at is generally is a 10-year cycle.
Yes.
Where there's a new financial crisis, and no financial crisis actually repeats by itself, but it repeats again. So we've had the mortgage crisis prior to that. We have all the Asian financial crisis and so on, right? But What they're saying is that because we can't predict what is the next crisis, maybe the guys that are predicting the next spike, the 1009 on Ether, for the sudden, and maybe it's somewhat connected to the next financial crisis. We don't know when it's gonna happen. It's definitely not gonna be the financial sort of anything related to the subprime crisis, right? Because we've learned from there. So maybe something that we haven't predicted.
Oh my God, Gustavo, I think you touch on an interesting point because I come from a stock market background. Today, we are on a historical bull run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Much more than 10 years. We broke the 10-year barrier.
Well,
right?
every new rise is higher than the previous one.
Yes. And not only that, we have very big institutional funds, analysts coming out to say we got 2 more good years. So 2 more good years, 2019, 2020, right? Now, if you look at this 2-year time frame before the next recession kicks in, then what's the correlation between stock prices versus crypto prices? Now, if the stock prices collapse, what is the next mobility in movement of cash? That will probably go into crypto assets.
And also, I don't really believe what a lot of like the analysts say, because if you look at what happened to 2007,
Yes.
that was when everybody was predicting. Early 2007 was predicting a bull run, and those who were saying that since 2006. They were crying wolf.
Yes.
And they were saying, oh my God, 2007 was great, it was so great. And then next thing,
Bam.
bam, subprime crisis hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the differences here are that, it's that traditional old money stock market, thinking of that. But, crypto is, because it's being established on the blockchain. What's really exciting about what's happening in crypto, as you were talking about Ripple and how, there are banks that are adopting it and doing cross-border transactions. And, that's an exciting, so it's starting to get more relevance and more legitimacy among the stock market guys, and so, if there is, a bust, those that are working in the crypto sector may not, or at a decline, I don't want to say recession, knock wood. But, it won't, those that are in the crypto field are not, I don't believe will get hit as much, but I am not a professional economist. So that's my opinion.
Well, will crypto become a different asset class, right? What happened during the financial crisis was the gold soared.
Right.
And so is gold still that resilient during like the difficult times? But then everything else, smoking and alcohol companies also soared during that period of time. Stress level went up, and healthcare also soared.
So here's the third distraction. We talk about stocks. We talk about cryptos. The third distraction right now is cannabis.
Yeah.
Cannabis stocks are soaring through the roof.
Of course, after California, US legalized cannabis. Yeah.
That's what's happening in the stock market right now. It's the next big thing.
I was going to say, it's interesting because I am from California and I have a lot of friends who are involved in tech in California, and that is the new buzz area, the cannabis market and the legitimizing it as a tech. It's fascinating.
Medicinal?
Yeah, but cannabis in California actually is pretty hostile. If you want to get into that business and want to start investing or like doing actual BYB, not for personal consumption, but actual business, it's pretty hostile.
Yeah.
It's in the hands of few, and they they want to monopolize. Certain groups want to monopolize.
But here's the thing. Anyone can become a weed farmer.
Yeah.
I was in Silicon Valley. The buddy I visited there, he owns a wheat farm.
Yeah.
He bought a vacant plot of land, and the previous owner was growing weeds on the land, and he took over and is right now running a full operations on it. I say, wow, you guys are cool.
Well, it is interesting because, and making that into a business, I have a friend of mine from university who's working at a tech company that it's basically how to locate and procure weed. And it's developing. It comes from a tech background, and so they're putting all of their tech resources into this, and I'm excited to see where it goes, just because it sounds so funny. Because
I've actually seen quite a few startups coming out with tech, trying to sort of authenticate or procure or some form of traceability purposes.
Right.
I've seen quite a few of those coming out. And obviously because with the popularity of cannabis, that automatically come out with people that we start thinking about technology solutions.
And the best poster boy for weed, Elon Musk. He was doing a kind of a show, something like this,
it was
and smoking weed.
Yeah.
That's the end of him.
Well, I also think that there was one podcast on this other show called Radio Lab, and it is essentially the difference between why alcohol and cannabis, when are treated differently. In health-wise, they are both, they serve their purpose, but also essentially because they took different paths in history. If 500 years ago they were all started at the same ground, they would still, because alcohol is just as damaging to your health, just as cannabis. Not saying that I'm encouraging people to use cannabis.
No, not on the. How did we get from the Blockchain Asia show into this?
Hey, it's all about traceability.
Using the technology would be very helpful, but we are coming to the end of the time, and so let's shift gears.
It didn't feel like, we need to bring this guy more often.
I know.
We talked about everything, literally from finance to like cannabis.
It was really easy. I can see where you get your energy. You talked about, you came in, you were like, I've been at 6 meetings. You were here like early, and I'm kind of amazed. And then you said you're going out tonight. So.
I'm going for my 7th meeting to meet my partner. Just flew into Singapore.
Yeah. So what's next? I mean, for you, we've heard a little bit more about what you're doing. What's next for Spiking? Before we go on, so I'm looking at some of the things that you've written, spiking.com and the blog section to read up on some of those things.
I think what's really exciting right now for us, and I'm very pleased to share in this radio show, first time in the public domain, we are really exploring looking at a crypto-friendly bank. I think that's the last mile we need to complete, because according to our ICO project, we made a promise to the community. We'll put 1,000 whales on the platform so that anyone can mirror their trades and make money together with the whales. Now, the definition of a whale means someone holding more than $1 million equivalent of crypto assets.
So how would you convince the whales?
This is the beautiful part. Because we came from a stock market background, today we are tracking more than 180,000 big boys. We call them the billionaires, millionaires, and blue whales. Folks like Bill Ackman, Carl Icahn, George Soros. And we go through each and every one of these money managers, and those having AUM above 100 million. We'll reach out to them and say, hey, why don't you set aside 1% of your asset under management, put it into cryptocurrency? And that's $1 million. You're going to put into my crypto bank. We custodize your entire assets. You're safe. Number 2, you're going to trade on Spiking platform, and we declare you as a whale so that all your fans can mirror your trades. Landing on your due diligence so that everyone has a fair chance to make money with you.
Great.
That's our proposition. And right now, I think we are on the right track. We seem to be able to attract the traditional old money as well as crypto funds to join us in this race to roll out the Spiking project.
Awesome.
That sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's probably going to happen in the next 2 days for you because of your energy. I mean, thank you so much for coming in, and I've learned some things and a lot of things for me to think about. Thank you, Dr. Clemen. And
it's total pleasure.
Yeah, and Gustavo, I'm still learning from you. I just like your style too. The more time I get to spend with you, the more I think we're like family.
Yeah, we'll become family. That close in that room.
Yeah, it's this room
with red and black patches.
Yes.
And thanks for having me, Michelle and Gustavo. I'm really so happy to
Absolute
be here.
Pleasure. I think Graham had a really good recommendation.
Yeah. I'm glad he recommended you too. One more thing before we sign off, I got to mention for one of my friends from high school mentioning Downey, California. I have no context, but he's going to give me $1 every time I say it. So the next couple of shows, got to keep saying that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.